Welcome to another episode of Tech Guys Who Invest. We're so excited to have you here today because in today's episode, we're going to do something that we do periodically, which is share a recent win on our journey out of the rat race. So Kevin has a recent win. I'm really excited to start asking him some questions about that. But it's fun for us to share this with you, our listeners, because we feel like we're sort of documenting our journey out of the rat race. We're journaling or recording our path to financial freedom. And we think it's kind of a cool experience for you to hear that, what it's like for a couple of normal guys to claw their way out of it. And hopefully it inspires you to realize, hey, you can do the same thing. So today's special, we're going to ask Kevin about a recent win he had. And with that, Kevin, how are you doing today?
Man, I feel good. April to May is going to be, it's great. This has been a fantastic month because the 1st of April, I got my first self-directed IRA payment for a note that I originated that's secured by 2 work trucks. And May 1st, I'm getting a payment on 2 second position notes that I have in my self-directed IRA, all of which are tax-free because I did it as a Roth. And for our listeners that don't know what a self-directed IRA is, it's a retirement account that is not as advertised as a traditional 401k. And if you have a 401k and you want a self-directed IRA, the thing you need to ask your custodian, it may be Fidelity, for example, you can ask your HR person, is if they do an in-service rollover. And then with that, you can use a self-directed IRA and invest in anything you want except collectibles and life insurance policies, which is how I used my self-directed IRA. I spent 5-6 years saving up a 401k, transitioned it over, and I originated those 3 notes. So the money I'm getting, 8% interest only for the next few years, and it's all tax-free. So if you want to learn more, we did an episode, I think, with on the self-directed IRAs, the basics of it. But if you have questions that you want to ask us about, we'd be more than happy to help you. So let us know, techguyswhoinvest@gmail.com.
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to us. And I think the most recent episode where Kevin gave an update on his note investing journey was back in July, if I'm right. And it's called Kevin's Latest Mistake. So you had learned a hard lesson back then, and clearly you applied that and moved forward. And I'm really excited to ask you, Kevin, what's your latest win? What have you been up to?
Yeah, so I do want to talk about the one. Believe me, I do. But I just want to use this point as a point of inspiration. From July to when we're recording this, April 26th, Sunday, how many months is that? 6-7 months or so?
Yeah,
Right? It's
that's
a long time. So
mhm.
from the time that I made a mistake to the time that I got my ducks in a row, there was a time frame there. So it took a good amount of action. So if you make a mistake, that's okay. You're going to make mistakes as an investor, but learn from them as best you can. And I learned by talking to mentors, reading, asking people questions that I believed had the answers to my questions, because you're not going to know everything. So it's okay to do that. It's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to not know everything. That's why you have experts. That's why you have a network that you can leverage.
Yeah, and you just keep trying. Like, you
Yeah.
did not give up. If you had just stopped, then you would be like everybody else, right? But you kept going, and now you've got a win to show for it.
I do. I got
Yeah.
my first asset where I am going to get passive income. It's a cash flowing asset, which is a performing note in this small town in Macon, Missouri.
Wow. Macon, Missouri. I've always wanted to go there.
Me too. As soon as I found out about it.
Yeah. No offense if you're from Macon, Missouri. I totally don't have anything against it. Just sounded like a funny thing to say. But yeah, so Kevin, how did you find this?
So how I found this note is I subscribed to an investor that I knew that I've known actually in the past. And when you talk about that episode where I made my latest mistake, it was
Uh-huh.
involving that actual investor where I had to back out because my ducks were in a row. I didn't have contract. There was so many things I did wrong in that.
Mm-hmm.
This
Okay.
time around, I was ready. So I asked the investor, In his newsletter, he said, here's a deal for you. Explains what the principal and interest was 269. What the rate on the note is, it was 9.9, and what the asking price was, which was 16,000. So I asked for more information, and then he sent me all the information I needed and then some to figure out whether or not this was a good deal. So investors are always looking to buy and sell things, especially right now. You have an opportunity to say, hey, what's going on? How are you doing? If you have anything for sale, I'd love to chat about it. And that's basically what I did.
Nice. Well, what I've noticed in the multifamily space, also in single family buy and hold, is you start to run into some of the same people, and once people start to realize you're actually serious and you take action and move forward, other doors start to open. So I'm sure that will happen to you. And now that you've interacted with this person a couple of times, and now that you've closed one, he knows you're serious. So other things are going to come your way. That's really exciting. So for people who haven't done a note deal, uh, what major steps did you take to close that?
Yeah. So once I got the due diligence files or the collateral, if you will, which is basically it talks about information about the borrower, the uh, deed of trust, and the note, which is just the note in the mortgage, basically. I looked at that, made sure that the chain of ownership was correct, and then when I did that, I verified that also with a title report. So the title report, what they do, to my understanding, is they look at all the ownership that has existed in the past and verifies that chain of ownership. Because the
Right,
last thing you want to do is buy a note and figure out that you actually don't own it. That would suck, right?
right.
So then what else I did is I got a broker price opinion from a local realtor. And I did that by calling realtors. I got on the phone, just cold called local people and said, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Can you help me out? And they did a drive by broker price opinion because they can't go inside. It's there are certain stipulations you have to adhere to by law for between borrowers and lenders and things of that nature. It's different than if you're looking to buy an apartment complex, right? You can go inside, take pictures of the property, get an appraisal, etc. I didn't have that same luxury, so I had to go by what the outside was were the exterior, what it looked like, the conditions, etc. And then I talked to the seller. I said, "Tell me more about this. Why are you looking to sell? Why do you think this is a good note?" And then I even asked the seller, "Why wouldn't you do this note? What would I'm still relatively new to this space. What would you look at as a red flag if you were in my shoes?" And he told me an answer, and he said, "This is a newly originated note, and that would be my concern."
Interesting. That's really cool. He gave you that information just by asking. You never know what you're going to get if you ask, right?
Exactly.
That's cool. So, Kevin, if someone is interested in note investing, they've never done one, what are some steps they could take to get one done, like you just did? How would you advise them to start?
So one of the questions that I get all the time is, where are you finding these notes?
Yeah.
And this sounds silly, but literally Googling mortgage notes for sale will give you some results.
Wow.
It will tell you certain websites like PaperStack. And we actually, in a future
Yeah.
episode, are releasing an interview that we had with the co-founder of PaperStack. So you can see that. And that's basically a platform where people are buying and selling the mortgage notes. There are other websites out there that I've used to analyze notes. Some of them you have to sign up for a membership. Others require a non-disclosure agreement you have to sign. And that's pretty standard across the board. So Googling is a huge one. Another one is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a fantastic resource where people kind of tag themselves with what they do, right? You put in yours that you are an agile coach. I put in mine that I'm a middle office expert, which is what
Hmm.
my 9 to 5 company does.
Right.
And I put note investor in there. Other note investors do the same thing. If you make a connection with a note investor, you can ask them, hey, do you have anything for sale? This is what I'm looking for. And if they may say yes, they may say no. So you can have that opportunity to find notes using Google and LinkedIn.
Yeah. And they may say, I don't, but I know so and so, and he always does.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing that I've recognized too. Is it's similar to what we've talked about in the past, where other investors are willing to help you when they see that you are working.
Yeah.
If you just say, "Hey, give me something. I need help," and they don't see you, if you're looking for a handout, chances are you're not going to get it. But if
Yeah.
you're looking for genuine assistance and you're stuck, people are going to help you.
Yeah. I love that. It's so true. I've noticed it as well. If they know you're working and you're really legitimate, they will help you. And we do the same thing. We help people.
Absolutely.
In fact, a tip I will give people, even though I don't know that much about note investing, certainly not as much as you, but I do have a tip for someone who's interested in getting started if you're inspired by what Kevin did. And it's contact Kevin, reach out to us, right? Go to tgwipodcast.com, find Kevin's contact info, get in touch with him. That's a fantastic way to get started. So, Kevin, what did you like about this note? What are some things about it you liked that made you move on this particular one?
The biggest thing that I liked was the income source of the borrower.
Okay.
And it's a $16,000 is a lower price note. And generally, the price of the house is going to be lower as well. So you may be thinking what type of occupation this person has. As of the last time I heard, we were in the tens of millions for unemployment, right? So there's a high rate, and that is something to be considered, especially in this time with all this uncertainty.
Yeah.
When I saw what the borrower was getting paid through Social Security, and it wasn't disability, it was Social Security because of their age, I was thinking to myself, that is a steady stream of income. And I don't see the government stopping Social Security payments to people that are already getting it anytime soon. And of course, that's my uneducated theory or opinion on it. So don't take that with a grain of salt with that. So that was my thought. And the other thing was the amount that the person was paying in rent previously was double the price of what they would be now as a mortgage. So that was another thing. And that was part of the story that I gathered from speaking to the seller. So one thing that is a common theme here is you got to talk to people at some capacity. Yeah, email is great, but getting on the phone is something that you need to do because you can build a better connection, build better rapport that way as well. And you can ask questions on the fly. You're just having a conversation with that person. Um, so the reason that that's important is because, like I said, that Social Security aspect of it, that source of income was relatively high compared to what were asking for the principal and interest. And I felt more comfortable that there was enough room for this person to live off of with whatever was remaining. And they had pretty good standing with credit. There wasn't anything there. I didn't see any blemishes or any existing debt that they had that would prevent them from paying, because that's the greatest risk. You buy a performing note because you want that cash flow. You assume, in best case scenario, they're going to continue to pay for the life of the note. Worst case scenario, that turns to a non-performer. And you have to read into the story of who the borrower is to understand what is the likelihood that they're going to continue to pay. So because of that, that is why I was attracted to this note.
Nice. Interesting. So that's really good to walk us through that for someone who may be doing this for the first or second time to really help them understand where your head is on all of that. Um, so yeah, that's really cool. Kevin, how does it feel to achieve this major milestone?
Getting the first one done, man, that is fantastic. On
It's
my vision
huge.
board behind me, the first image that I always look at when I do my visualizations is that home plate image, because it represents me just getting ready to swing. And of course, I want to hit a home run, but I'd be happy to get on first base. I'd be happy to swing and a miss because I'll learn something. And this is what this deal represents, that I was at the plate and I swung, and we're going to wait for the result. But I swung, right? I
You
took
got to hit.
exactly. I took the action, And I'm based off of my research, I'm confident that this is going to go well. And if it doesn't, we have the contingencies. But it feels great. And it feels
Oh
like
yeah.
this weight has been lifted in a sense. I'm ready for the momentum to just go bigger and faster.
Oh, that's awesome, man. It's that law of the first deal. I'm telling you, the second one's right behind it somewhere. You can't see it right now, but it'll happen soon. And there's so many doors open when you get that first one. It's amazing how that works. And I love it. I mean, you definitely have a hit. You're on base. I mean, you know, at the minimum here, the very least that could happen is you learn a ton, and this makes you an even better note investor going forward. But I think much more than that'll happen. It sounds like you've really done your homework, and I think it'll be a good profitable deal for you. um, can't wait to hear what it feels like when you start getting those checks in the mail.
May
That's great.
1st, baby. That's right around the
That's
corner.
awesome, man. We'll have to check in after you've had one or two of those. And yeah, that's fantastic. So what's next? I mean, it's important to have other goals lined up behind your goals so you don't, kind of stall out. What's next for you?
I am continuing on trying to increase that momentum. So I'm still looking at notes. I'm still looking to analyzing deals. I got a couple projects lined up. Specifically, I'm releasing a podcast dedicated to note investing. It's called Note Nuggets, and that's a podcast coming on May 15th. And the idea there, it's because it's called Note Nuggets, is to break down note investing, and each episode is going to be one nugget of knowledge that the listener can take, put it in their back pocket, and if they find it applicable, they can use it. So building up their toolkit, if you will, with those important nuggets. And I'm going to have experts on there, people that you're going to want on your team, people that have been investing for years, and people, everyday investors that are trying to find their stride, like myself. And ultimately, as an educator, I wanted to find a way to give back as much information as I could.
Oh, that's awesome. Note Nuggets. Okay. And I love that name. That's super cool.
I have a
Yeah.
thing for
Awesome.
alliteration. So also, if you want to subscribe to the podcast early, I'm going to do an exclusive case study of this note. I'm going to go to the step-by-step process to how I analyzed it. Go to notenuggets.com/countdown. We'll put that in the show notes also, but when you sign up, I'll give you reminders when the podcast is releasing. You'll get access to this webinar that I'm going to do on May 8th. It's going to be a quick lunch and learn, and then you'll be notified when the podcast releases. But I'm excited, man. I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to get that second, third, fourth, fifth note. Those are going to happen soon.
Absolutely, man. And Note Nuggets is going to be big. And so that's cool. You're doing a webinar, you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right, cool. Well, lots of good stuff in the future here, Kevin. Congratulations. I'm really happy for you, man.
Thanks, Adam. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. And thanks everybody for listening. We're going to put all that stuff in the show notes, and please reach out to us if you have any questions for me or Kevin. We'd love to hear from you. Find us on tgwipodcast.com.